Hello and welcome to Indus News Live from Islamabad. I'm Meher Sher and these are the headlines. In the U.S. presidential election, all eyes are on the vote count in key states to decide the race for the White House. Democrat Joe Biden is pushing closer to the 270 electoral college votes needed to win the presidency. He has secured victories in the battlegrounds of Wisconsin and Michigan. Incumbent President Donald Trump has taken Florida, Ohio, Iowa, Missouri, and Texas. Meanwhile, the Trump campaign says it is challenging vote counts in Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, and Michigan. Azerbaijan says its army has forced Armenian troops to retreat from Akhdar and Khojavend areas. The Azeri Defense Ministry said Armenian forces suffered a number of casualties during the fighting. Earlier, President Ilham Aliyev said Azeri army has liberated 7 more villages in the Upper Karabakh region. Over 1,200 people have been killed since the fighting started on the 27th of September. In India, more than 20 people are feared dead as a boat carrying over 50 passengers capsized in Bihar State's Ganges River. Local officials say 2 bodies have been recovered while divers have rescued 25 people. The officials said the rescue efforts are still ongoing. Over 1 million people around the world have tested positive for COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. The global number of cases has topped 48 million with more than 1.2 million deaths. The U.S. has recorded highest daily cases of over 102,000 as its caseload soars over 9.4 million. India's death toll has topped 123,000 with infections tally crossing 8.3 million. In Pakistan, 26 more people have died of the virus overnight, taking the toll to 6,893. Well, those were the headlines. More news in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In the U.S. presidential election, all eyes are on the vote count in key states to decide the race for the White House. Each candidate needs 270 electoral college votes to win the presidency. More in the following report. Officials in Arizona, Georgia, and Pennsylvania states count ballots as the world awaits the outcome of the 2020 U.S. election. Democrat Joe Biden is pushing closer to the 270 electoral college votes needed to win the presidency. He has secured victories in the battlegrounds of Wisconsin and Michigan. Biden believes he pretty much has the keys to the Oval Office in his pocket, but stopped short of claiming outright victory.
And now, after a long night of counting, it's clear that we're winning enough states to reach 270 electoral votes needed to win the presidency. I'm not here to declare that we've won, but I am here to report when the count is finished, we believe we will be the winners.
Incumbent President Donald Trump has taken Florida, Ohio, Iowa, Missouri, and Texas. The Trump campaign says it is challenging vote counts in Wisconsin, Georgia, Pennsylvania, Arizona, Nevada, and Michigan.
The Democrats know that the only way that they could win this election is to cheat in Pennsylvania. And we've seen it from day one. We found ballots in drainage ditches. They're not letting our poll watchers watch the polls. They're not letting them inside. There's video after video of them passing out collateral material in polling sites all over Philadelphia. They're trying to cheat.
Some political analysts are surprised by exit polls data that showed President Trump has increased his support among Black voters, Hispanic men, and white women more than he gained in 2016. And in the aftermath of Election Day, protesters have taken to streets in multiple U.S. states demanding a thorough count of ballots cast in the presidential election. This comes after President Donald Trump called for a halt to vote counting and vowed to mount a challenge in the Supreme Court. More in the following report.
From California to Pennsylvania, Americans are chanting, "Every vote counts." Hundreds gathered at Oakland City Hall in California to express anger over Trump's announcement. They urged state lawmakers to count each vote. Over in New York, police have arrested dozens of protesters as they wound through Manhattan streets.
Because this is a critical time for the country where a fascist president is trying to stage a coup, and we're here to say that every vote must be counted. And you know, the election should go through the real process and not be hijacked by his schemes to steal it.
Count every vote as every vote counts is also being echoed in Pennsylvania. The state, with largest troves of electoral votes, remains up for grab. Trump's campaign says it has filed a lawsuit in Pennsylvania to halt vote counting, arguing officials had failed to allow fair access to counting sites. However, the state's governor, Tom Wolf, has vowed he will do everything in his power to make sure that every vote counts.
Our election officials at the state and local levels should be free to do their jobs without fear, without intimidation, without attacks. These attempts to subvert the democratic process are simply disgraceful.
Weary from one of the most bruising U.S. presidential races in modern times, Republican and Democratic voters alike are in a state of high anxiety as counting continues in major battlegrounds.
And moving on, Azerbaijan says it has forced Armenian troops to retreat from Akhdar and Khojavend regions after combat operations. The Azeri Defense Ministry said Armenian forces suffered many casualties during the fighting. It added that civilian settlements in Goranboy and Tartar regions were fired upon by the Armenian forces. The ministry said the attacks on Azeri positions came from the direction of Burd, Chambarak, and Vardanish areas of Armenia. Earlier, President Ilham Aliyev said Azerbaijan's army liberated 7 more villages in the Upper Karabakh region. Over 1,200 people have been killed since the fighting started on the 27th of September. The Afghan government says it has killed 11 Taliban fighters in multiple raids in Helmand and Uruzgan provinces. The defense ministry said Abdullah Jan, a Taliban commander, was among the 8 fighters killed in Helmand. The ministry added the Taliban were killed in retaliation after they attacked the positions of Afghan forces. Officials said weapons and ammunition belonging to the Taliban have also been destroyed. The Taliban have not commented on the claims yet. Meanwhile, negotiations to decide on the mechanism for intra-Afghan talks are underway in Doha. Over 1 million people around the world have tested positive for COVID-19 in the past 24 hours. The cases have topped 48 million, while the virus has now killed more than 1.2 million people globally. The U.S. reported record daily cases with more than 102,000 tested positive overnight. More in the following report.
Anger, frustration, anxiety, and dimming hopes reign the world as it nears the anniversary of the detection of the first coronavirus case. European nations are tightening curbs to battle a raging second wave. Amid a rapid rise in daily deaths and infections in France, the health ministry has warned the actual figures can be much higher. England has entered a new lockdown amid protests against government restrictions. Spiking deaths and cases in Spain have hobbled its job market, causing a sharp rise in unemployment.
I haven't been paid during the entire confinement since the first day it started. I was working as a chef, and a week after we were confined, and to this day, I am trying to get unemployment benefits. So far, I haven't been able to do it.
Amid grim news all around, Britain's vaccine task force has finally announced a positive development. The Oxford and Pfizer vaccine candidates are expected to provide positive interim COVID-19 vaccine data before the end of this year. Meanwhile, Australia has signed 2 more deals to buy tens of millions of doses of vaccines from Novavax, Pfizer and BioNTech.
Now today we're announcing an extra $1.5 billion investment in the Novavax and the Pfizer vaccines. This adds to our overall program of over $3.5 billion that we're investing to ensure that Australians will be in the leading pack of the world as we move into the next phase of dealing with COVID-19, which is the vaccine phase.
Meanwhile, India has recorded 704 new deaths, pushing the toll over 123,000, with a caseload of more than 8.3 million. Over in Latin America, Chile and Peru have also authorized countrywide clinical trials of the AstraZeneca's COVID-19 vaccine. The deaths in Brazil are once again surging, while the government refuses to enforce any form of restrictions.
And on to Pakistan. COVID-19 has claimed 26 more lives, pushing the death toll to 6,893. The health ministry says more than 1,300 people tested positive overnight. The ministry mentioned there are over 15,000 active COVID-19 cases in the country. It said more than 316,000 people have recovered so far. The ministry said over 147,000 cases have been detected in the Sindh province, while Punjab has reported more than 105,000 cases. In the capital city of Islamabad, some 20,000 have been infected so far. And moving on, Turkey has vowed to respond in the firmest way to France's decision to dissolve the Turkish Grey Wolves group. Earlier, French government disbanded the Grey Wolves, a wing of President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's political party's ally. Turkey's foreign ministry said Paris has to protect the freedom of assembly and expression of Turks in France. In a statement, the ministry said the ban shows the French government is now completely under Armenian influence. It accused Paris of double standards and hypocrisy as it allows the Kurdistan Workers' Party to be active in France. Ankara considers PKK a terrorist organization. And Turkey says Kurdistan Workers' Party has killed at least 3 civilians in the country's southeastern Hakkari province. The defense ministry says the terrorists attacked the construction workers in Derecik district with missiles. In a statement, it said 2 of the workers succumbed to their injuries after being taken to the hospital. The ministry added the site of the attack was subject to intense firing from air and land. It said later in the day 5 attackers were killed in an operation in Semdinli district in Hakkari. And in Ethiopia, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed says the army has succeeded in containing a rebel attack in the northern Tigray region. It was deployed to quell an uprising by the Tigray People's Liberation Front that sparked fears of a civil war. In a national address, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said the army has also managed to retake key locations in the region. He did not mention any casualties or whether fighting was continuing, but he added that the government would conduct more operations in the coming days. Meanwhile, UN Chief Antonio Guterres has expressed alarm over reports of armed clashes in northern Ethiopia. He called for speedy measures to de-escalate tensions and ensure a peaceful resolution to the dispute. And moving on, in India, more than 20 people are feared dead as a boat carrying over 50 passengers capsized in Bihar state's Ganges River. Local officials say 2 bodies have been recovered while divers have rescued 25 people. The officials said the rescue efforts are still ongoing. Eyewitnesses say there were motorbikes and cattle on the boat that capsized near the river bank. Capsizing accidents are frequent in Bihar, where people risk their lives to travel in often overcrowded boats. Beijing says major progress has been achieved in 7 years since the launch of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the CPEC projects brought over $25 billion of direct investments to Pakistan. In a briefing, Wang Wenbin highlighted the completion of first electricity-run public transport project, Orange Line Metro in Pakistan. He said the projects completed under CPEC had enhanced infrastructure and power supply in Pakistan. He said the corridor has promoted local development and also helped regional connectivity and prosperity. Moving on, Saudi Arabia has announced new plans to ease foreign workers' contractual restrictions. The move will improve a 7-decade-old sponsorship system known as KAFALA. The reforms will allow private sector workers to change jobs and leave the country without an employer's consent. The Ministry of Human Resources said the initiative will apply to all expatriates in the private sector. It said the plan will take effect in March next year. Deputy Minister Abdullah bin Nasser Abu Thunain said the reforms will also help achieve the objectives of Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. He said the kingdom aims to build an attractive labor market and improve the working environment. And moving on, Sudan says the latest round of talks with Egypt and Ethiopia over a dam on the Blue Nile have failed. The video conference negotiations started on Sunday and were meant to last a week but have been terminated. Sudan's water ministry said ministers of 3 countries agreed to end the talks over Ethiopia's dam. In a statement, it said Sudan proposed granting a bigger role to African Union observers to help mediate. But the ministry added Ethiopia accepted while Egypt rejected the Sudanese proposal. Egypt's irrigation ministry spokesperson said the meeting failed to bridge gaps and make any tangible progress. Meanwhile, Ethiopia said the 3 could not agree on items such as the basis for the upcoming negotiation and the time frame. More news after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. In Canada, health authorities have reported the country's first case of a human infected with the H1N2 virus, a rare strain of swine flu. The case, detected in the western province of Alberta in mid-October, appears to be isolated. Health officials said there is no increased risk to Albertans at present. They added there is no evidence at this time that the virus has spread further. Meanwhile, Japan is culling 330,000 chickens after the country's first bird flu outbreak in more than 2 years. Also, Dutch officials ordered the culling of 200,000 chickens after highly pathogenic bird flu was detected. And Denmark says it will cull entire herds of up to 17 million minks. The government took the decision after a mutation of the coronavirus that can spread to humans was found in the animals. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen said the mutated virus has been found to weaken the body's ability to form antibodies. At a news conference, Frederiksen stated that it posed a risk to the effectiveness of a future COVID-19 vaccine. Authorities had registered 5 cases of the new strain on mink farms and 12 cases in humans. The health ministry estimated half of the 783 human COVID-19 cases in northern Denmark are related to minks. Denmark is the world's largest producer of mink skins. And moving on, Honduras and Nicaragua are flooded after Hurricane Ida battered the countries with torrential rains. The hurricane has left at least 4 people dead and dozens of fishermen stranded in the Atlantic. Storm Ida struck Nicaragua as a Category 4 hurricane before weakening to a tropical storm as it moved inland. The life-threatening hurricane severely damaged homes, uprooted trees, and downed power lines with winds of 225 kilometers per hour. Thousands of people across Central America were evacuated ahead of the hurricane. U.S. National Hurricane Center says Ida is expected to further lose strength over Central America. But it warned the storm is forecast to regain momentum as a tropical storm after returning to sea. And Japan's Nagasaki Shipping says the cleanup of a massive oil spill from a vessel off Mauritius will likely be completed by January. The bulk carrier's owner says all of the oil floating in the ocean has been recovered. It mentions that work to remove the oil along 30 kilometers of coastline was proceeding smoothly. The vessel ran aground on a reef in Mauritius on July 25th and began leaking oil on the 6th of August. It spilled more than 1,000 tons of oil into the pristine environment. Scientists have called it the Indian Ocean island's worst ecological disaster. A Rubik's Cube artist has created a 6,000-piece mosaic within 16 hours, the largest ever made. More in the following report.
The Rubik's Cube was invented in 1974 by Erno Rubik, who then called it the Magic Cube. In 1980, the Ideal Toy Company changed its name and began to distribute the newly renamed Rubik Cube that is solved around the world today. Giovanni Contardi created a special artwork to celebrate the 40th anniversary of the Logic Puzzle and the finals of the Red Bull Rubik Cube World Cup, both on Saturday. Contardi took 15 hours, 49 minutes, and 32 seconds to complete the artwork, beating his 24-hour target.
So I just finished, and it took me about 16 hours. The hardest part was definitely staying focused for this whole time, and of course, enduring the pain on my legs, but I'm happy to be done.
The mosaic, made of using the artist's own cubes, depicts the Greek god Atlas holding a giant Rubik's Cube. The Italian artist typically creates portraits and has completed works of celebrities such as Rihanna and Will Smith. The first Rubik's Cube portrait that Contardi sold to singer Amy Winehouse was for about $5,000.
This mosaic is quite special for different reasons. First, it's not a portrait, which is something that I usually do with Rubik's Cubes. And second, it's a 6,111 Rubik's Cube mosaic, which is the biggest one ever done in less than 24 hours.
On the puzzle's 40th anniversary on November 7th, international speed cubers will compete online. Last year's championship took place in Russia and was won by Max Park from America, who beat two-time world champion Australia's Felix Zemdegs. The Rubik's Cube was invented in 1974 by Erno Rubik, who then called it the Magic.
And now moving on to business, Indonesia has fallen into its first recession in 22 years as the coronavirus pandemic continues to take its toll. Southeast Asia's biggest economy saw growth fall by 5.32% in the second quarter of 2020. It fell 3.49% in the third quarter of the year compared to the same periods in 2019. The last time this happened during the 1998 Asian financial crisis, authorities have predicted that 3.5 million people could lose their jobs due to the coronavirus downturn. Indonesia has the highest infection rate in the region. And moving on, China says it will increase its imports to $22 trillion in the next 10 years. Addressing the China International Import Expo in Shanghai, President Xi Jinping said big countries must lead by example. Xi said major economies need to act on sound principles, while the president called on developing countries to play an active role in sharing responsibilities. He said there is a need for openness and cooperation to deal with the uncertainties during the pandemic. Xi urged all countries to protect the multilateral trading system with the World Trade Organization as its cornerstone. The Chinese president also called for improving the rules of global economic governance to build an open world economy. And European markets are trading higher as investors await the results of the U.S. presidential elections. The Pan-European Stock 600 added over 0.5%, with tech stocks jumping 2.5%. London's FTSE 100 has gained marginally. In Italy, the FTSE MIB climbed 1.5%. The CAC 40 in Paris has added over 0.5%, while Frankfurt's DAX is trading more than 1% higher. Earlier, all Asian stocks traded higher. And in football, Barcelona have secured their third consecutive win in the Champions League with a 2-1 win over Dynamo Kiev. The win moves Barcelona on top of Group G with 9 points, followed by Juventus on 6. Yet to score from an open play this season, Lionel Messi secured Barca's lead from the penalty spot in 5 minutes. Gerard Piqué capitalized on the lead, heading a second goal home to secure the Spanish club's victory. In another Group G fixture, Juventus hammered Ferencváros 4-1. In a Group H match, RB Leipzig beat Paris Saint-Germain 2-1 to level with leaders Manchester United. Meanwhile, Manchester United had to suffer an embarrassing 2-1 defeat at the hands of Istanbul Başakşehir. Despite the defeat, United remain on top of Group H, leveled with RB Leipzig on 6 points. And now it's time to take a look at the latest weather updates from around the world. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news.